I'm good. Okay.
How's your new life as a
Started
married?
recording. I'm good. I got married this summer, so
Yes, I know.
crazy events. I actually got married two times, which is pretty fun.
Yes,
Uh,
no, I
we had
know.
one wedding in Japan and one in Canada, so that was crazy. And now I'm back to normal, back to real life, just working. And yeah, today, Saturday morning, I got it off and I slept in. And yeah, I thought I was late. How about you? How you been doing?
I've been doing great. I have been giving lectures, academical ones, and opening paths for new understanding of what this knowledge is. Sometimes is um, usually is very happy to see new faces and see people interested in what we do and everything we do. Sometimes there's people that does not know anything about us, and you have to begin talking and expressing stuff since the beginning. Um, what I have been feeling is like a sense of extenuation, but tomorrow is the last day for lectures and is the closing, the grand finale for this cycle of giving lectures in the academical sense.
Sounds like a pretty fancy place.
Is the mecca of
That's that's awesome. Good for you.
yeah, that's the mecca of anthropological and historical studies.
I'd love to go there. I've never been to Mexico City.
Mm. You can come, I
Like,
can drive you to all the places. Mexico
yeah,
City, fortunately, beyond violence that is present in every city, beyond uh, what is to live in a big city, because this is really a challenge to live in this city. Fortunately, it's a very rich, culturally rich, full of chaos and creative energy, as to say. And Mexico City is just as our ancestors said, this is the belly of the world. So it's a very complex and a very fascinating place to be in.
amazing. You sent me a message a couple days ago asking for the podcast. Usually, it's the other way around. Usually, I'm the one that sends you a message. I was thinking about sending you a message recently, but I hadn't done it yet. Because it's been a few months. Usually, we do this every few months. Uh, was there something on your mind, like?
No. What I was thinking is that I saw that you got married. I was
Yeah,
giving I was giving you time to digest
sure,
everything.
yeah. Took a
At the
while.
same, yeah, and at the same time I was traveling and also on my own dynamics of traveling and finally these last couple of weeks like assembling everything into a new planification of time and stuff. And the postcards now it's something that I always take into account for to plan, for to continue, for to be providing of giving you
It's
ideas
amazing.
to the
Yeah, yeah.
for stuff.
I appreciate that. The podcast has enriched my life very much, and I know the lives of actually many other people. So we're very grateful.
Well, then, as I told you, now it's something that I always take into account to make planification of time. Like, well, I was like, okay, he already got married. I'm already home. I have some free time next Friday, and I said, why not? Let's do the next.
I see. Does it have anything to do with the Nawal of today, or not really? Not at all.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Sadly for what is now time, and what is to have a purpose in life. Now, um, if you would want to have an impact, or if you want the followers to continue being with you, you have to have time for them.
That's true. And actually, I do a really bad job of that. I only put out podcasts every couple months. So I'm sorry if anybody is, left holding their breath. But we do have the best information on the internet. So, sit tight. I a long time ago, I took one of the podcasts and I transcribed it and I wrote it into a blog. And I'm working on another one now, which is our last podcast, which is I've finished yesterday. Is the descriptions of the Nawals, which is the last episode that we did.
Oh yes, that's going to be that's if you're transcribing the last podcast, that is just a hit, because that's brand beautiful new knowledge that we are sharing.
Yeah, that's true. It is. So I think, if we had to pick somewhere to step off from today, I would like to continue with the novel descriptions. I know that would be very helpful for me and probably many others.
Let me see. Let me look for the file.
Sure.
And do you know in which part did we stop?
I do. Yep. We stopped with HunAkpu, and so we'd be on Imosh now. It's the next one.
So we already did the first 10 Nawals, right?
That's right. We had the first 10.
Whoa.
We're making traction here.
Yes. Well, sorry. This is about the three key. This is the three keywords that can be used for an easy way of an easy approach to get to Nawals. Is based on linguistic study that I made with a couple of friends, both spiritual guide, one from my town, my nephew, that is Mayan linguistic, and we were looking for the correct contemporary words to express Nawals. And my friend that is from the USA, so we made the correct translation of the ancient words in English. That was something that for me was very important, very important, a very good work to do.
Really, honestly, it's step one. Like, if you can't understand this basic thing, then every way of interpreting facts is going to have some sort of error in it. So to really get an accurate peg on the Nawals, which honestly has been mysterious and elusive, and I feel intentionally so in some ways.
Yes, and what is happy about this, I found the file now. What is happy about this knowledge is that when I finished this work, it was more than 10 years ago. Then when I begin to apply it with people that does not share, that usually does not share the Mayan philosophy, I found out this to be a very accurate way for beginning to teach, or for beginning to talk about this. And it has, during these 10 years, it has been a very easy tool to approach, a very easy tool to go. As I told you, there are keywords that, in a sense, they express, they don't really express a fight between good and bad, or good and evil, or
right. Yeah.
The complementary stuff about Nawals. And let's say, for example, entering into action. We talk about Hunakpoo. that is a feminine Nawal. Hunakpoo is the how in that is the name in Cholan languages. Hunakpoo as in the Quiche ways, the way in which it's expressed in the Popol Vuh. Hunakpoo has has a series of words, not only three, but in reality it's three, but there are reverberations of meaning. The first one is brightness, glow, the brightness, the glow. That's the first key word, brightness, glow. Following the Popol Vuh, well, then the sun enters into the underworld to have fights, to have to battle darkness. At the end of the Popol Vuh, you can see that the sun arises to the sky, and that is the point: brightness, glow. The opposite but complementary word is fear, treason, fear and treason.
Right.
Fear and treason. And as I said, is a complementary opposite, not something, not the good and bad.
I think this is an important philosophical distinction of Mayan thinking, which is there's always a complementary opposite included. With any concept, it's already inferred that the complementary opposite is included. So everything has got for example, you have brightness, you have darkness, you have fear, you have courage, something like that.
Exactly.
Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as human activity, you have action and you have to go and rest a little bit. And you have the light, let's say the sunlight or the light brightness of day, and you have the obscurity of night to rest or to dream or to do re-energize your body or whatever you wanted to say, but it's activity, let's say activity and inactivity or action. And by the way, it follows the other metaphor, to be standing up for activity and to be lying down for resting. But they are complementary. They are not opposites. That is mostly the base of ethics and moral stuff in the world. But in the Mayan ways, you need to transcend that to understand everything as a complementary stuff. For example, in this case, just talking about going into brightness and fear, you can read it in the Popol Vuh how they go to the place of fear, and they have to conquer, to conquer, yes, to go beyond the fear the Hunakpoo and Xbalanque feel after in that place, to conquer and to arise and to finally arise as a bright and glow to the center of the sky. And in this way also follows what happens not only as fear as such, but you can go a little bit beyond fear, but obscurity, fear, even humidity in a sense, because when the seed, any seed goes into the earth, now it enters a place of obscurity, a place of humidity, and to sprout and then to return as a living plant to bright and grow and glow. That's the way it functions.
Yeah, and you can observe that in nature. It's an observable thing, in the world, and it applies to this principle of this Nawal.
Exactly, and that's the way it functions. Also, like for example, in pregnancy, like the baby begins consciousness and life in an environment of obscurity and humidity, to be born and to rise to glow and to to begin life in this after following the same scheme. Is the tree goes in these three conceptualizations goes in the same: the sun entering into the mountains to descend to the underworld to conquer fear, the seed that goes into the center of the earth to return as a plant, to glow, to bright, and even to attract by the smell. That is another way of also understanding Hunakpoo. Hunakpoo tries to attract. That's why it's also the Nawal of is the flowers Nawal, the Nawal of flowers, because he's the one that is going to attract. He's the one that has to bright, to have the glow.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and sometimes you have the what sometimes is I have seen in people that is for them is kind of tricky or difficult is to play with these conceptualizations. You whenever you go to understand the Mayan calendar, you have to follow nature and to follow. You don't have to go into that difficult schemes and everything. No, you can go to the basic, to the simple, and you are going to see it functioning in nature. That's I think one day in one of the podcasts I was talking about the definition of the self or definitions of people, and sometimes there are conceptualizations that are very heavy, and I think when we were talking about the deer, the venado, the deer, and we were talking the mule, the horse, we were talking about them. Sometimes they are very judged about. In psychological terms, the definitions are very heavy, like stubborn, like obsession, like stagnancy, stuff like that. But if you just use the same Mayan words, stubborn, stagnancy, or strength, and you apply it like in a definition of looking at a deer, then you're going to find better with yourself. Using metaphors of nature to define yourself, it always goes better in a very beautiful way.
I see. That's an interesting point, that looking in nature is a better place to find metaphors.
Yes, well, in this case, let's follow with Hunakpoo. Let's say they love brightness and glow, and they have to conquer fear or everything. Sometimes they are called to have so much vanity. The Hunakpoo people is always told to be to look for everyone's eyes and to produce, let's say, an impact on people, so that they take care so much of themselves, how they dress, how they choose, how they pick up their clothes, their ways of being, how they choose words, how they express themselves. You can see a person that is very easily to be told to be a person full of vanity and pretentious, but that is not the point. That is a way of judging the stuff. What we're talking about is this essence, this nawal, this core, this energy, if you want to call it like that, that looks for brightness after the battle. Is the fight of the light in the middle of darkness. And if you if you follow that, well, yes, then it's not a qualification. Then it is a property. Then it is.
Property is a good word. I like it. It actually is a great word for this.
Yes, is a property, and in a way, is like is something that is a substance. That's the other word that I like, and the word that I use in my book. It's a substance. It's a substance, a property, and it is not subject to be qualified, because it's following what I said in the book. Is the way you were created. So in reality, is also like a gift. It's something that belongs to you. is the way this interweaving of properties, or this interweaving of consciousness provides you with this substance, with this way of consciousness that is more like a property, is the glow, the brightness. Then in Hunakpoo, once again, is for example, pride. They are told to be pride. Well, that's okay. Why being proud of you, of yourself, of what you produce has to be bad? Is the brightness that you want to produce, to express. By the way, um, without not being Nog, for example, that is a Nahual of ideas, Hunakpoo also produces bright and beautiful ideas, poetry, and that's their purpose, right? That's their substance, their essence. Maybe not the purpose. The purpose is beyond that.
Very interesting. Well, I
Now,
think
yeah.
this is a very important thing to focus on, is the philosophical difference, you know, of how the approach to the world. That's a big point. Like, if you don't approach it correctly, then you're missing the whole point.
Well, one day I was asked about something that happens in dreams. That is this basic stuff that every human being knows. That is that whenever we are in the world, in the living days, we are so stiff. We are very square to everything. We don't accept, and we don't go crazy in the streets doing new stuff. We don't even change the way we dress, for example. We have a fixed way of dressing, and we go more or less with the same all the time, or we choose a style, but we don't go that crazy. We don't jump from one style to the other. What happens then in dreams? And in dreams, the most crazy stuff appears to you, and you accept it like nothing. And then you're chased by aliens, or then you are in the middle of a battle, and then you meet the president, and there's no drama. For you, in the dreaming body, you accept whatever that happens. That is almost very, 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 very interesting to see how, in reality, how is the opposite of how stiff we are in the square and stiff and fixed in the world, and the solution mostly goes because of that. Because of the same, we apply so much energy, or we apply so much let's say industry in the thoughts, or we apply so much we care so much about judgment. We apply so much bioenergy, in the sense, not the new age term of energy, but the real stuff, applying your efforts to be committed and to not to go beyond judgment, or to follow what judgment tells about you, even how society of your friends or your family has defined you beyond your decisions. Because when you're a child, sometimes they tell you what you are, and then you follow what you're supposed to be, and then you enter into contradiction, feeling new stuff that you're not going to pay attention to, because you are something, you're already something. Then when a person really enters into the Mayan calendar and begins to apply this knowledge based on nature with a new way of conceptualization of consciousness, then you can rest, you can have a saving, you can save so much effort, energy, or to get a better new sensation of freedom, because you are not applying the same judgments. That does not mean that you're going to go jump naked to the streets, but you're going to find ways to apply your own consciousness to do new stuff, or to have creativity in life, to have or to be productive in a different way. What happens is that we're always monolithic people, already fixed and already squared, already stiff. When you begin to apply this, you're going to find out a new ways of definition of yourself, and you're going to be full of energy, or full of new purpose, your new building purpose in life.
Yeah, I've been talking about it a lot recently in terms of nature versus nurture. You know, because this is a real Western, existential question. And so to bring it up is like, look, you have a nature, and I believe that. And then we've studied in nature a lot, and if you observe nature, you can see this energy or Nawal behaving or active.
Yeah, what is active in you and what is going to be present and what is going to follow cycles in your consciousness and along with the physical body you got. And so it's like the Nawal is going to, the study of Nawal is what you're going to what you're going to study as an expression in you. That's why in the book I said we're all expressions of the universe. The Nawals expressed through ourselves.
Yeah, it's a study of your own nature. That's a huge part of it. And
exactly.
I felt that when I came up with that. And there's so much. There's so many people that don't know their own nature and want to know their own nature, and it's this forever existential mystery that everybody's like, my nature, what is my nature? And this is the same question, but to me, I think the Zolkeen is mathematical, and it's a compass. I think it operates like a compass because it points, and you can read it, and it literally orients you. It orients a lot of stuff. So anyway, it's very, very, very fascinating.
Yes, now then for HunAkpu keywords, we can add the pursuit of success.
Yeah.
The other one is pursuit of leading, like a leader. It is not the same as what Nawal E does. Nawal E is the path opener, the pathfinder. HunAkpu is more like the other aspect of leading, is the pursuit of leading, is the one that is going to go to the hierarchy, to go to the highest level, is the pursuit of leading. Can you see the difference? Is not the same as what Nawal E does. Nawal E is more like the opener and the one that is more sensitive and open when walking. Let's say even metaphorically in life, when opening a path, you have to be more sensitive. And
I think I've seen a lot of Nawal E is very sensitive.
Yes, and sometimes it's kind of something that is also painful because
I think so.
Because Nawal E has to open the path. So Nawal E, let's following the metaphor of nature. If you are in the middle of the jungle, you have to be more sensitive to noises, to smells. You have to lose a little sense of your own self to continue. You don't have time to be pondering about so much stuff, but to continue in advance. But at the same time, that sensitivity can play the horrible role of making you harm or harming you or being so much pressure. And sometimes you are so much sensitive. Sometimes it's also, in this case, the opposite. When sensitivity is like, oh my gosh, I feel it so much. You have more empathy in that sense.
That's beautiful. That's I have a lot of friends around me who are Nawal E, and that describes a lot of the nature of what's happening. Interesting.
Yes, you can see an Nawal E doing things that you said, well, let's say an Nawal E woman or a man doing something amazing about opening the path, some marvelous producing something, but at the same time you can see them making a tantrum, an emotional drama in themselves, living so obscure lives, and says, well, that's what happens with sensitivity. Now, well, it can produce beautiful work, but at the same time it can have big, big emotional drama because of that. Goes with the same. It's the same. It's the same substance at the same. It's the same substance.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but this is Nawal E. Some HunAkpu has Nawal E because it's part of the composition of the formula. And that is something that we have to, one day, we have to begin a podcast about talking about this, how
We'll get
to
there.
understand. We're in the first steps. We're talking about substance. Then
Sure.
As for the chemical scheme, we're going to talk about formulas. What to do with what do you have to do with every substance that you got from your Nawal composition, and that is going to be that is another realm of action to understand how the entanglement of these substances. Well, Hunakpoo follows with
Imosh.
no. There's another kind of the same, but it's reverberation of the keywords. Is if it's also the glow, it's also the false glow. It's also, and this talks about when people are pretentious and when people cannot arrive to what they want, what it is like a goal or something to do. They can be the false glow also. They can lie even. They have to protect the self because they and another word is self-loyalty. Self-loyalty. They are very confident of themselves, but they realize everything to themselves. And sometimes self-loyalty is bad seen as selfishness in the Western world, or when people said it's very self-centered. Well, that's a property in HunAkpu. HunAkpu has to transcend a little bit this, or to rely on this, but to apply it properly in the world, because now it's very bad seeing that a person is so much self-centered, or all these purposes are so based on self-loyalty. That's why sometimes they are called the traitor, or the ones that say something and does the opposite. In reality, is self-loyalty. Is a way of self-protection. But usually in the world, well, now and without applying this stuff are heavily. They are very heavily judged. Self-loyalty in a HunAkpu is something that is that begins since pregnancy, because much of the pregnancy of an Imosh is a pregnancy that is full of fear in the woman, in mother, that usually there's a miscarrying before a HunAkpu, or usually there's something, a tragedy that the woman hears or that the woman suffers. So the woman is always mostly anxious, and the woman experiences fear during pregnancy. So the Nawal HunAkpu has to develop, or the consciousness is shaped into being a self-loyalty, because the mother is sending messages of fear in pregnancy. And in that way, it's very clear why they act the way they act. Did you understand this part?
Almost. I mean, could you say it again?
Well, there's always a heavy judgment on self-centered people, and there's always the accusation of them to be selfish, to be self-centered. But there's an easy explanation, and it's what I said in my book, that everything has to do with the pregnancy. There's a way to explain this, and it is because usually the woman that is in a pregnancy of a person that is going to be a Hunakpoo, usually there was a miscarrying baby before. There's usually a bad news during pregnancy. There's also the possibility of having one relative ill or something that produce anxiousness in the mother, and the mother experience fear during conception. So the baby's consciousness is shaped by self-loyalty. They have to rely on themselves because there's always something like producing frightening stuff around them.
That's very interesting.
Yes, yes, that's why I wrote the book, because mostly we are very dumb and very blindfolded to understand what is the actual behavior of a person in present time, and we think about education and present stimuli, but we don't see is what happened during pregnancy. That is the real thing that shapes our consciousness.
Right.
That's why sometimes most therapeutical, psychological, or psychiatric, or some stuff fails into try to change the behavior of someone, because that is already fixed. And the real frame to study is pregnancy, not the environment in present time.
I think this is the classic argument, Western discussion, philosophical one of nature versus nurture. And everybody knows this. It's common, so it's nothing new. It's as old as the sun. Nature and nurture. And the Tzolk'in is arguing nature. And then society and morality and civilization is nurture. And actually, they both play roles. That's true. However, this is a claim. The Tzolk'in is an argument for nature, saying this person has a nature. The nature was created. You can explain the nature like this, but it's the nature that drives, not the nurture, and we can prove it. And so sometimes when I'm presenting these ideas, I present them that way, and it's effective communication concept. Anyway, I just want to add that.
Oh yeah. That you are totally true. And what is the key to understand this is that this is a basic, deep consciousness that is already affected during pregnancy. And you have to understand that later, then you develop a mind that is going to absorb a stimuli, that needs repetition to learn, that has a memory, blah blah blah. And you have to arrive to this deep consciousness you were shaped in to make a real change. Not because it's a substance you have been created, but also that consciousness is still present, but it's deep buried on layers and layers of nurturing, education, ideas, judgment, environment, even biological stuff like good alimentation or bad alimentation, and stuff like that. That if you can go deep into that primordial or primal consciousness. You are going to find that to be truth. You were already shaped in consciousness by the conditions of pregnancy, and then in that way it's very easy to make changes. But if you go on to consultation for 10 years about talking about your mother, your father, and your first wife, then you're going to be more lost.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay. Well, actually, if we're going to talk about psychology, then the next Nawal on the list is Imosh. So that actually
that has one of the most amazing reputation of being the crazy Nawal.
It does.
Imosh, yes, but Imosh, you have to follow it but to go directly to the nature of what is the, let's say, the spirit, the substance, the properties of Imosh, you have to go directly to the study of the spirit of the water. The water is the spirit of the water. So, and then the first property is to flow. The property flows, goes in a flow. But then this is the beginning of at the beginning and the clarity of the stuff. If the water has a collector or a channel or something that leads that flow, there are two conditions. When the collector is heavier than water, water takes the shape of the collector or the channel. But when the channel or the connector are softer than the strength of the water destroys the channel or the collector, and we can see that in nature. In that sense, we can following the same scheme or the same conceptualization from nature. Then, if the water goes into the correct amount, if the water is applied in the correct amount, then you can see a fertile land, and the seeds, for example, in there are going to grow up in the correct, in the proper, let's say, in equilibrium, in the correct form. But if the water is not the correct or not the proper, or is not goes not in the correct or in the proper amount, then the water is going to destroy. Is going to, and it is called destroy the property, destroy the nature of the other. Following just your flowers in your garden, if you apply the correct amount of water for them, they are going to bloom, they are going to grow. But if you apply too much, you are going to destroy them. And that is the basics of Nawal Imosh. It is when the spirit of the water is deposited or is placed in the correct amount, they are going to let you flower or bloom or grow. But if it is an overflow, then you're going to destroy the other. And that is what is in reality expressing. It's not that Nawal Imosh people is strictly crazy. It's that they have to find the correct way of applying themselves and not overwhelming themselves. They can have a good, let's say, collector, a channel that is going to can be expressed as education, a good place, a good place to stay in, in relationships, and a stronger partner. They have something that to which they can adapt and to continue to grow, or they provide you, they help you to grow. But if you're weaker than the strength of the water, they can destroy you. It's not about craziness, it's about proportion. So the first and so for to make a reconceptualization of this is not about craziness. We can begin with the key words, that is growth and flow. And the second, the complementary words is imprecision or overflow. That if you listen to what I have been saying, now it sounds very, very, very clear. Even if you talk about the money you provide or you give to your kids, if you overflow, there's an imprecision. You are going to create something beyond your control, and it is not that they have not the. You can produce damage over spoiling something or something, someone.
So then, a big key concept is the overflowing.
Exactly. Well, it's flow. The substance is flow.
I see. So it's the flow.
And then you can go to
good or flow correctly or flow incorrectly?
Or precision. As I
Okay,
said, or as I said with your flowers in your garden, you need
it's
to
a
know.
beautiful analogy. Yeah,
You need to know what they need. That's why Imosh is also related to Nawal Anil, that Nawal Anil is the seed. When the seed has the proper quantity or amount of water, the seed sprouts and grow. If the seed has too much water, the seed is destroyed. The seed
right.
cannot sprout. We said in Mayan Umar, that is go rotten. This is kind of beyond of what we have been saying, but it's more like the formula stuff. But Nawal Anil and Nawal Imosh are always in complementary connection, as Nawal Ishbalam, that is the fertile earth, because there always has to be a proper balance between them, a fertile land, a good seed, and the proper amount of water. All three Nawals are feminine, but Nawal Ishbalam, the jaguar, is a feminine aggressive. The Anil and Imosh are more like passive, and in that sense, they need to be taken care of. You need to apply the correct amount of water or correct proportion. If you don't want to talk about water, but following the metaphor, but going beyond, is precision and imprecision, is grow and flow, imprecision and overflow. Or for example, imprecision that leads to madness is not madness as such, it's
That's
the
beautiful.
imprecision.
That's a very key point, which would be helpful to clarify that it's not madness as such, it's madness as a result of imprecision.
Exactly. Because they are always accused of so much stuff, and a person, when a person, sometimes there's people that says, oh yes, I know, I'm so crazy. No, but let me tell you something. That's the definition that you can find in arguelles.com. That's so wrong. It's not about that. It is
Arguelles.com. Fuck you. Sorry?
Whenever they found a correct channel or a correct collector, they really know what is, because Nawal Imosh is when the person is correctly, let's say, prepared, and when he's in a correct or in a precise, let's say, way of using their strength, they are very productive. They are almost workaholics. They are always producing. They are the injection of force. That is the other key word for Nawal Imosh. Injection of force, injection of strength. They can help you so much. They are heavy workers and they are heavy producers, but they always have to watch this, that they can overflow and harm themselves and the others.
It's beautiful. I appreciate that very much. That's yeah, that's clarified a lot actually for me.
Well, I have been surrounded by Imosh people, and I have seen how they behave differently according to the context, and how they behave differently if the partner, the work, the job, the friends, the strength they have surrounding them. Studying that as a collector or as a channel, you can see how they behave differently. And because what they have is the strength of the water, they also open the path. And they also inject strength, as for example, in this sense, Nawal Iq, the wind, and Nawal Imosh, the water, goes in the same, goes as a parallel strengths or properties.
That's amazing, actually, because I've always known Nawal to inject strength, and it makes sense. I could see Nawal Imosh injecting strength too, but I never compared them.
Yes, and they are quite connected in mythology or in the description of the universe and in the philosophy, in the present modern Mayan science, Maya
How
science.
how so? Can you tell me a story about how they're connected?
Well, it goes first in the sense of the wind and the water are unstoppable. You cannot stop them. You can hold them a little bit, but they are all and by the way, it's not only Nawal Ish, Nawal Iq, and Nawal Imosh. It's also Nawal 3, the number 3. Number 3 is opening the path, as I wrote in the book. And it is kind of at the same nature with different phases, opening the path, breaking the cracks, finding a way, and at the same time, flowing and injecting strength. And in the human body, story goes on the fetum or the baby, first the fetum and then the baby that is growing in water, and then in this aquatical world, the baby enters into consciousness to begin to be shaped, and then at the delivery moment, the baby no longer uses the water, but then the wind as a source of life. So we are created in water, but we continue life by the strength of the air. That's our nature. In that sense, we can also go into the what the Mayans we call the inner consciousness, usually told to be the soul, but now we are not talking about souls. We are not Catholics. It is a way of consciousness. It is not the Hindu way of defining consciousness. It's a consciousness, a way of a response, communication, and you can read my book. and and then the shaping of our first primal consciousness is done in an aquatical world, and it is called Ushlap, the inner consciousness. And then when we are born, we receive the gift of the Nawals, and that is an external consciousness that is fueled by air, because now we belong to the reign of air. And in that sense, Imosh help us the creation of the self. And then Nawal Ik is the real provider of life.
That's so beautiful. Thank you very much for saying that. I'll think about that for a couple months and get back to you.
Yeah, you can see it. I'm not lying. You can go
Is there
to a
anything else
hospital. You can go to a book.
Is there anything else you'd like to add for Nawal Imosh, or should we move on to Nawal Ik? This is maybe a good point. I think you kind of explained it already, but maybe some key words for Nawal Ik.
Yeah, no. Well, it is not, as I said, is parallel strengths, properties, substances. But it's not the same. At the end, everyone has a different substance, a different way of acting, and as I define, they are not souls, they are consciousness. It's not something that is just given to you, it's something that is there, but you can give, but you can take control or go with the flow of this Nawal. Well, Nawal, by the way, is a masculine, and I think for the ones that are taking notes in this stuff, that there's no really feminine against masculine, not even in the complementary stuff. And I say this in the book, that people, this is not the real way in which we make the conceptualization in common in the Mayan knowledge. We don't really talk about feminine and masculine. This is more academical way of classification, or you can go even to the Chinese way of yin yang and feminine and masculine. We're applying an already known scheme. But anyways, I'm going to follow doing this for you to understand. Usually it's kind of a different stuff in Mayan, or there are keywords, but you need to learn Mayan to understand this. Nawal is masculine. Nawal Imosh, the spirit of the water, is feminine. Nawal is the spirit of the air, or the spirit of the wind, the life provider. I don't know. I think that I don't know. I'm going to tell it once again. There's this history that you hear during when you are an apprentice in the mountains that says that you can imagine a spiritual leader of any religion. You have not to say anything about anything. And then you have another one, and they are discussing who's the God provider of life, and they go for their books and talk about their prophets and talk about their ways of understanding and blah 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 blah, and they begin with this with that, and they make their proofs, but in between them, maybe they can end fighting, or they can end loving and kissing themselves. I don't know, but in between everything, the real provider of life is the wind. They are breathing and exhaling. No matter how they think, anyways, the wind is the one that is making the work.
Beautiful. I love it. That's a big respect to the wind.
Yes, well, it's the life provider. Is whenever you, after delivery, that's your God, if you want to call it like that. No surprise to hear that Quetzalcoatl in our work, we can, or all these expressions that talk about the wind, the hurricane, or everything are so important in the philosophy of the natives of the Americas, because that's the reality. If you say truth, or if you say lies, if you say whatever you want, if you want to say whatever you want, or whatever is your supposition of what is creation, anyways, the wind is giving you life.
Okay, well, let's maybe we can move into the next one. Akabal.
No, well, I haven't said the key words.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, I'm going too quickly. Go ahead. That's very funny.
Yeah, it was very funny because I entered into the, well, keywords for Nawal Iq, the spirit, or the spirit, the substance, the consciousness of the wind, is inhale, the act of taking, of inhale, and encourage.
That's beautiful. Wow.
That's why it's a life provider. Inhale and encourage.
Great.
Yes, if you have a windy friend,
yeah,
that's the one that is always being pushing you. Let's go, let's do, I can go. Yeah. Let's do it. Why can't you? That's a person that has no way of waiting for you. That person is already in your door knocking, waiting for you. It's the person that is also the person that has no time. There is a person that is always impassioned.
Has no time. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, no, well, they always appear as a surprise, like, okay, let's go. Well, I'm doing stuff. Let's go.
Yeah, that's great. Good.
Yes, and they are very impassioned, and they are always very nervous. And that is a difference because, for example, Hunakpoo and they have anxiousness. But Nawal is impassioned, is nervous. It's like it seems that they look like if they were all the time sensing fear, so they are always in a hurry, impassioned.
Well, what about I've no. Oh no, you have one more, please.
No. There's another way. There's another keyword for it that is passionate.
Oh yeah.
They are so full of passion. And when they become writers, they write the stuff. They are so passionate. Now they are having difficulties in this political war, in this being political in the world, or being diplomatic in the world, because Nawal just give you the speech, the way the speech has to be done. You don't want to get a Nawal person in front of you when the person is mad or when he's upset. When they begin to give you their speech, that speech goes directly.
That's awesome. Sometimes I wanted to ask, I can observe Nawal is beating itself against the wall.
Yeah, that's the other key word, that is tantrum.
Oh, you hit that one last.
Tantrum and angriness, if you want to go to make a pair of conceptualization, although the words are different, but the real complementary opposite is inhaling courage and angriness and tantrum.
That's an interesting pair of opposites. I'll have to chew on that one for a while.
Well, they are so full of passion, they are so full of strength, they are so nervous, they are so impassioned, they are always running, they have no time. When all of that stuff begins to accumulate in the self, they explode. And they explode in this way. They begin to make the tantrum, and there's no way to discuss with them. You have to wait for them to finish, because all that strength is being expressed. Don't go into battle with an Nawal Ik. You are going to lose, or there's no way. They need to unleash everything they have been holding. What am I?
Like a balloon.
Exactly. That's it. That's as a fact, that is the metaphor. The balloon full of air, and the air will always want to escape. So the tantrum, the angriness, and the way they are nervous and anxious is because they can explode.
That's funny. A balloon is hilarious.
There's
flying around the room.
So fascinating, right? There's another explosion in the Mayan, is the bats. But bats is more defined by an implosion.
Yeah, I thought bats was implosion, not explosion. So I imagine it being like a building, falling, like wham, it goes in. I don't know.
In Nawal bats, that happens in the inside of the person. In Nawal Ik, it goes to the outside.
That's hilarious and deep. I got to think about that one too. Very interesting.
I told you that the keywords function so good to understand this stuff, because it's very easy. It's a very easy way to follow the Nawals. It's a very way to follow even imagination, what you saw in the world.
The mind works in images and sensory touches, like that's why if you go to these places, these different Nawals, you can really connect to them, because it's an image that you can see in your mind. It's a feeling that you can remember. It's a smell that you can remember. It's just that's your mind is designed to work with, images and smells and touches and stuff. And so, with all this stuff, like having different images for different Nawals helps you understand it so much more. Like it's very, very, very powerful to have images.
They are very, very, very powerful. Same as numbers, but
no, I when I think about the numbers, I always think about the places that the numbers are. Every time there's a spring. I think I'm going to go there today, and it's in the mountain behind my house. And I go there to fill up drinking water, because the drinking water here is, it's not that good. So it's better to drink the spring water. And so I drive up there, and every time I think about number one, I just close my eyes and just imagine that spring. And, because it's in Japan, they have a little shrine there, and it's kind of a peaceful, beautiful, kind of special place. But it's also just a place to get drinking water too.
Amazing. Well, now in this podcast we are not going to finish the 10 Nawals. we extend a little bit more in every case. In the first one it was faster, or we go, but now for the people that is following, and maybe for the ones that are taking notes, now you can see that they express conceptualization. Yes, they express concepts, but I think is and these concepts always will express there are going to be different meanings for all of them. For every keyword that you have to begin to combine. And they are key precise words because, as I said, if Hunakpoo and I has anxiousness, Ik has nervousness, and it's not the same. If bats and Ik explodes, bats explodes to the inside and Ik to the outside. And if Nawal Hunakpoo wants to lead, Nawal I is the path, the leader, but it's not the same. Every conceptualization is going to express new stuff, as when I said the air, the wind, and the water for the seed. The baby, as when I talk about the conceptualization of the penis and the vagina in the Mayan world, and to talk differently about what is inception. And yes, everything is full of images, and images based on nature, based on simple observations, common observations and things. And then you can see that it is not about mythological beings. It is not, to apply the word Nawal is not to talk about let's say, once again, it's a conceptualization of the consciousness of the universe, or the way the universe behaves, but how the universe behaves in you. How you are an expression of those forces or strengths or consciousness.
That's a wise thing to say. I appreciate that, actually. How nature, I would say nature, but how nature behaves in you. That's a beautiful thing to say, actually.
Yes, I wrote it at the end of the book that one of the points was not to expose a mythology or the exotic, crazy way of a bunch of individuals in a civilization. It is just a way to describe nature first, and then to describe nature in you. And then you can see the formula, how you are an expression of the universe, and how this primal consciousness you are born with, or you are since conception times, is already shaped by experience, or by the activity of, or the way the mother behaves. Then, as you said, as in the basic, what was in the Oracle of Delphos, right? Know yourself. And the people begins with, well, I would want to, but I don't have really good tools to understand myself. Now I know. Remember when we were making the joke, like, now I know I'm a neurotic, that I have this pathology. Yeah, but that is not knowing yourself. That is just to accept the classification the other gives to you. You need to know yourself. It's not the same.
That's not knowing yourself. That's knowing the other's classification.
Yeah, it's an outside classification based on your incapability to behave properly in what is the expectation of you, of a person in the Western world. I don't find it any funny.
No, well, anyways, but yeah, no, I get it. What's the next one? Akabal.
The next one is Akabal, but please put a pause. I need to close a window. It's kind of windy, and I need to close it. Give me some seconds. Okay, let me tell you, I'm back. I'm back, and in Spanish, sometimes we make a joke because whenever you put the automatic translation systems, for example, in YouTube or stuff like that, they always do it wrong, and they said soy espalda, and maybe for the ones that understand Spanish, this is very funny when they say I'm back, soy espalda. In English, does not sound at anything, but it's like a confusion that make us here in these lands make us laugh a lot. I'm espalda. I'm back.
What do you say? Oye, espalda?
Espalda, the back.
Espalda. Espalda. Okay, my friend's wife is from Chile, so they speak Spanish. I'm actually have a bunch of Spanish speaking friends here, so I'll try it. See if it works on them. I'm sure they all
Yes,
know.
well, now we know that the podcast is listened in so many countries, and well, let me say a hello to all of them. I cannot speak by Vietnamese, or I don't know. There are some languages that I'm not going to talk. Polish, for example. But hello to every one of you. Well, let's continue. Akabal, and this Akabal make the last. Akabal is complex. Akabal is one of the some Nawal that is always that I'm continuously asked about, because Akabal is someone that is a Nawal that whose conceptualization is always put in a very bright way, because Akabal is the light or the clarity. And but whenever you are dealing with an Akabal, you have to have some skills to deal with an Akabal. Akabal is an Nawal that you have to have respect for that Nawal. Let's begin. I have so many histories about Akabal. I don't know, maybe not. I think in a podcast I already talked about.
Yeah, we've talked about Akabal actually extensively. I just thought maybe we could do it briefly. I'll tell you my plan with this podcast is I have written out all the transcribe the podcast, the last one, and I would like to transcribe this one and publish it as soon as I can. So I'll hopefully try to do it today. And so Akabal, actually, I have lots of information on Akabal. If you could just say the key words, I probably could fill in.
Well, but you also have to take into account people that does not know. Let's follow the same pattern for new people. Akabal. Yeah, this is like for the beginning. This is like the Nawal Ish is the Ish Balam, that is the jaguar. Akabal is also a Chochineli Shaprilal Nawal, that it means aggressive feminine.
That's interesting.
In this classification, there's masculine against feminine. There's only one masculine that is more passive than all of them, but and Ish is and all the feminine, but Ish, Balam, and Akabal, they are aggressive. They are the feminine aggressive. The other is just feminine, receptive, inception, conception, not inception, conception, fertility, all humidity, darkness, resting, recovering from illness, descending, everything that ascending, all that is feminine. But Akabal is one of the aggressive, feminine aggressive. Akabal begins with clarity and order. Even an alternative for order could be classification also. Clarity and order. And the opposite complementary stuff is complaining, and demanding. Clarity and order against or in complementarity with complain, demand. It is also to do or to say or to command. that once again is not, look at the soft distinction between using command and not what we use for Hunakpoo, that is the pursuit of leading, and not what is E, that is the pathfinder. This is to command. You need not be the leader. You are not. It's about the conceptualization of command. To do the other what to do. This reminds me one joke that I don't know if I already said here in the podcast, but for advanced students, they will know which is the funny thing about this, because Akabal is a clarity, and they are very organized people. They are people that loves order, and at the same time they are complainers, because they are the ones that are always complaining about why is this like this, why this happens like this, why can't you do what I said to command. And there's this joke that says that in the world there are three ways of doing stuff, and any stuff, in any practical area or any whatever you do, there are three ways to do the stuff. The first one is to do it correctly. That's good. The second way of doing stuff is incorrectly, to fail. And the third way of doing stuff is doing Akabal style. And
what's the Akabal style? What do you mean by that?
Because Akabal is always beyond perfection. Because you can do something good, you can do something wrong, but if you do it Akabal, oh my God, that was beyond expression. As to make a joke, I have as a substance, I have Akabal, but not as my Nawal. And I remember my nephew one day he said something like, I asked him something to wash the car, and he that already knows me and sometimes suffers me, he was like, I know. I can do it good, but I need to do it Akabal, right?
I see.
Akabal is always a way of doing stuff beyond perfection. That's why Akabal people sometimes you can suffer being close to an Akabal, because Akabal always goes beyond perfection. It's the classic, it's the uttermost image, the paramount image of a perfectionist. Is the person that but now, by the way, they are called obsessive compulsive in the present time. Is the person that if something is out of order, is the person that cannot see a stink in something, is the person that a stain here and there is going to cause them obsession.
You know, you told me you told me a great joke. It was Akabal women having trouble having an orgasm because they're afraid to stain the sheets. No, and they're probably Egyptian. Oh no, not my Egyptian cotton sheets.
And by the way, there's an obsession, especially in the American or the USA culture, because anytime that you see a person that is obsessive compulsive, is the exact description of an Akabal person. If, for example, if you go to see the movie or to see a movie, the person that is the perfectionist, the person that has the white snow sheets in the bed, or the person that has the remember the movie Sleeping with an Enemy with Julia Roberts?
No, I never saw it.
Well, Sleeping with the Enemy, it talks about this woman that is married with this man. This man is so obsessive with order and being in control and everything that after 20 minutes you said, well, that's an Akabal.
I see. Yeah, no, I get that. I always think of Akabal as a Batman.
More or
Famous for
less,
yeah.
like a little bit,
The
but Akabal,
reason I'm making a joke about their beyond perfection. So they're not just coming to the party; they're coming to the party dressed like fucking Batman and like a Batman car and like everything that. Whenever I have family and friends that are Akabal, and I always give them Batman stuff and like Batman stickers. Kind of funny,
well, American Beauty,
right?
this wife of the principal character in the movie, when they are about to go he's trying to recover back the love, and they are about to make love in the couch, and she says, no, 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 this is Italian fabric, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You can pursue it of Akabal people, and there's in in Hollywood movies and all the scripts, usually an Akabal with all this obsession of order, compulsiveness, this stiffness, because they can be very square also. And this person that is always portrayed as the one that knows everything, because that's also what Akabal is. Akabal is always a person that has the clarity. They have the clarity. They are not usually and let's say these hoarders of knowledge or quotes or that know all the passages of a book, or they can be like that, but that's not really the side point. But they have clarity. More beyond that, moreover, they what they have is clarity,
mm.
and they always have to be right. Whenever you have to expose something and there's an Akabal in the crowd, you have to fight hard. Because the Akabal in a
Yeah,
conversation is the one that is going to complain and demand a better proof of what you are saying. And Akabal is always portrayed in movies. Now returning to the subject, to the point, is always going to be portrayed as the wise people that you cannot deal with, or the obsessive compulsive, or the one that has these all these dilemmas with cleanness. What they are is they tend to be perfectionists. They are heavily, and let me tell you the truth, they are heavily judged in the world. For example, it's very easy to see an Imosh or an Ahmak an Imosh for craziness, or an Ahmak for have almost a compulsion for sex. Or Nawals also has the same reputation, but an Akabal is like the one that also is being heavily. And by the way, I have had so many clients being Akabal that are heavily medicated after being told to be obsessive compulsive, or or the way they cannot stop complaining about everything, or in the way they cannot stop or to have let's say a sane way of dealing with the world. An Akabal person will always have to fight or to find a modulation, or I don't know, that is always have calibration of their strength, because Akabal is the perfect classificator, and they want the stuff perfect, radiant, brilliant. Is the perfect organizer also. They have the clarity. And there's another joke, I don't know if I said that, that goes like, who's the first victim of an Akabal? Well, the Akabal itself, the Akabal himself or herself. They are the first victims because, and by the way, they always dress as Hunakpoo, as to say. They always choose with the most expensive, the most fine, the most fancy clothes. This is the man or the woman that combines the glasses with the shoes, or the tie with the belt, and but it's not the same in Hunakpoo. In Hunakpoo, this way of being in pulchritude, or to be the perfect in dressing, is more about brightness, to take the attention, to God the attention, to God the light. But in the Akabal, it's not about gaining attention. It's about being perfect in what they do. And it's more about in choosing the best, because they are always going into being or going or to having the best expression of something. That's why they are in the modern way now they are always medicated for to try to function with not that much pressure, because a Jabal person pressures the self so much. And by the way, let me tell you, for any Akabal reader, Akabal also can make so much pressure around the people they live around them, because they are the perfectionists. There's there's this way that that's why my nephew told me I have to do it Akabal way, right? That is going beyond perfection, because an Akabal will always know the stuff. They like to command, but whenever you do something wrong, they do it for you in front of you and show you how to do it. And sometimes they make so much pressure on children, for example. And let's say Akabal has a good memory and memorizes and understands things very clearly and quickly. But if they have a child that does not have that properties, they are always complaining and telling stuff to the others. They have a Akabal is a gift to collect clarity and to go in order, to make classifications, to understand the world, but it's their gift. They usually apply so much pressure to the people around them for not being that way. And I have seen so many families destroyed because the father is an Akabal or the mother is an Akabal. And in families that goes most in better ways, sometimes one of them is medicated after being obsessive compulsive, or to have so much anxiousness, because Akabal, as I said, Akabal can put in the garbage something that has a stain at the moment, even without using it, or if they saw some defect or some stuff that is not correct, they go and burn the stuff. And in relationships, they go the same. They wash the clothes 3 times. They wash the things in the kitchen 7 times. And they always know how to do it. And people usually is like, okay, there's no need for to do that stuff. Oh, but Akabal is doing that stuff. Counts every coin. They are putting all the bills in the wallet by color, by whatever. And Akabal suffers. In reality, Akabal suffers in this world full of chaos and stuff.
Chaos makes them suffer. I think that's true. I've seen that. Well, that's very interesting and amazing. And there's lots of jewels in there that I'll have to go back through the podcast and re-listen to them.
Yeah, and I'm going to say a word, but we are going to another key word to ponder about, because we cannot extend that much. And in the next podcast, we can follow with this. Another key word for Akabal is the power obtained by hiding information.
Right.
Yes. I already say it in one podcast.
You did, yeah, that's right.
And I explain it. But for the new ones, well, we can discuss this later. Now it's already 1 hour and a half, and and we can continue later. There's time.
Oh yeah, this is not a small thing to be able to talk about. It's a really big thing, and it's going to take forever. So no hurry, no worries. We'll still be here tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. Well, I now thank you very much once again for the efforts of putting this information into a podcast. Congratulations for the changes in your life. Hope you the best for both of you, and for the general people. There has been a good reception of my book. If you can tell your friends to buy your copy, it can help these efforts to continue to be to be released, or for me to continue writing. And well, let's learn the true stuff.
Feed the teacher, feed the knowledge. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. And I'll put a link in the description where people can feed the teacher, feed the knowledge, feed the effort. And hopefully I can talk to you soon.
Okay,
when can I talk
yes.
to you next?
Yes, maybe next week. I don't know. But have a
I'll send you a message.
Okay. And once again, have a nice night for the ones in this hemisphere of the earth, and have a nice day for the other ones in the other side of the world.
Sure. Thank you very much.
See you.